Echoes of yesterday. The reflection in the mirror stared back at Naima Sharma with familiar intensity. Her fingers traced the raised tissue that ran from her left temple down to her jaw, a roadmap of survival that most people couldn't see past. At 26, she'd spent nearly half her life explaining these scars without actually talking about them. Just 5 more minutes, she whispered to herself, adjusting the lightweight scarf that partially draped across the left side of her face. It wasn't that she was ashamed, not anymore, but working at Prism Gallery in downtown Mumbai meant dealing with the city's elite, who often confused beauty with worth. The morning air was thick with monsoon humidity as Naima navigated the crowded streets. Street vendors called out their wares, auto rickshaws zigzagged through impossible spaces, and the scent of chai and spices filled the air. This chaotic symphony was her favorite part of the day, when she was just another face in the crowd moving with purpose. "Good morning. Sanjay?" She called to the security guard as she entered the glass-fronted gallery. "Morning, Naima. Ready for the new exhibition setup?" His smile was genuine, one of the few that didn't falter when it landed on her face. "As ready as I'll ever be. Mr. Mehra is bringing in the Singaporean collection today." Inside, the gallery was a haven of quiet elegance. White walls, polished concrete floors, and strategic lighting transformed the space into a blank canvas waiting to showcase beauty. Naima loved it here, even if some of her colleagues made it difficult to feel truly welcome. "Oh, you're early." Tanvi, the gallery's assistant director, barely looked up from her tablet. "The delivery team needs direction in the East Wing. And please wear your hair down today, we have important clients coming." The instruction wasn't subtle. Hair down meant covering more of her scars. Naima swallowed the familiar sting and nodded, moving toward the storage area where crates of new artwork awaited. What Tanvi and others didn't know, or care to know, was that Naima had studied fine arts at Delhi University before the funding ran out. She could identify brushstroke techniques at a glance and knew the difference between genuine artistic innovation and pretentious imitation. Mr. Mehra, the gallery owner, recognized her talent, which was why she'd risen from receptionist to assistant curator in 2 years. "These need to be handled with extreme care," she instructed the delivery men, who nodded respectfully. At least here, directing the placement of priceless artwork, her authority wasn't questioned. By midday, Naima was absorbed in arranging the final pieces when she overheard whispers. "Is that the one with the, A woman's voice, deliberately hushed but intentionally audible. "Yes, poor thing, Mr. Mehra probably keeps her out of charity. Can you imagine that face greeting clients?" Another voice, male this time. Naima's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the lighting on a delicate watercolor. 13 years since the fire that had claimed her mother and left her marked, and still, the words cut deep. That evening, after everyone had left, Naima remained behind. This was her secret ritual, alone with the art she would sketch. Her drawings, hidden in a portfolio beneath her desk, captured not just what she saw but what she felt. Tonight she sketched a phoenix, its wings extending from flames, feathers transforming into human hands reaching upward. "You don't need to be whole to create beauty," her father had told her during those painful hospital days. "You just need to see it everywhere else first." As she packed up her supplies, Naima didn't notice the figure watching through the gallery window. A man in simple clothes observing not her scars, but the intensity in her eyes as she created something remarkable from her pain. The observer, the first time Rohan Kapoor walked into Prism Gallery, no one paid him much attention. In his plain white button-down shirt and khaki pants, he looked like any other moderately successful professional seeking culture on a Wednesday afternoon. Only the careful observer might notice his custom-made leather shoes or the subtle titanium watch peeking from beneath his sleeve. Small indicators of wealth he deliberately downplayed. At 34, Rohan had grown weary of being recognized. As the founder of Nexus Technologies, a company that had revolutionized sustainable energy storage systems across Asia, his face occasionally appeared in business magazines and tech journals. The fortune he'd built over the last decade had become both a shield and a prison. People saw his bank account long before they saw him. "The Singaporean collection, please?" he asked softly at the reception desk. "Of course, sir." "East Wing, to your right." The receptionist gestured without looking up. Rohan wandered through the gallery, hands clasped behind his back, genuinely appreciating the artwork but finding his attention repeatedly drawn to a woman carefully adjusting the lighting on a striking abstract piece. Her movements were precise, almost reverent. He noticed how she stood back after each adjustment, head tilted slightly, evaluating the effect with critical expertise. What caught his attention wasn't the scars visible on the left side of her face, though he certainly noticed them, but rather the extraordinary care she took with each piece, as if engaged in a private conversation with the artwork. When a group of loud visitors entered, laughing and pointing at various displays, Rohan observed how they fell silent upon seeing the woman. Their whispers were poorly concealed, their glances unkind, yet she maintained her composure, offering knowledgeable commentary about the artist's technique when one reluctantly asked a question. The artist uses a method called impasto, she explained, her voice warm and confident despite the uncomfortable atmosphere. The thick application of paint creates not just visual texture, but actual physical dimension. The visitors nodded, clearly surprised by her expertise, before moving on with backward glances and more whispers. Something about her dignity stirred Rohan. In a world where he constantly questioned people's motives for befriending him, her authenticity, maintaining professional passion despite obvious discrimination, felt refreshingly real. He returned the following week, and the week after that. Each visit, he made small purchases, art books, prints, even a small sculpture, always ensuring she was the one to assist him. "You have remarkable taste," Naima commented during his fourth visit. Carefully wrapping a limited edition print, most people overlook Rajesh Patel's early work. "I'm drawn to artists who see beauty where others don't," Rohan replied, watching her hands work efficiently with the packaging. "Those who transform ordinary perspectives into something extraordinary." A slight smile crossed her face. "That's a lovely way to describe it." She handed him the package, their fingers briefly touching. "Will we see you again, mister?" "Rohan," he offered simply. "Just Rohan. And yes, I expect you will." Over the next month, his visits became more frequent. He learned her name was Naima, that she had studied fine arts, and that she had an uncanny ability to predict which pieces would resonate with him. What began as curiosity evolved into genuine admiration. During one visit, he arrived to find her engaged in an uncomfortable confrontation with a wealthy patron. "I specifically asked to work with someone else," the woman was saying loudly. "No offense, but your appearance is distracting from the beauty of the art I'm considering purchasing." Rohan watched as Naima's shoulders stiffened, her professional smile firmly in place despite the humiliation. "Of course, ma'am. I'll ask Tanvi to assist you immediately." As she turned away, Rohan intercepted her path. "Actually, I was hoping you could show me the new collection that arrived yesterday," he said loudly enough for others to hear. "Your insights last time were invaluable." Relief and gratitude flickered in her eyes. "Certainly, sir. Right this way." In a quiet corner of the gallery, surrounded by provocative modern sculptures, she finally spoke candidly. "You didn't need to do that." "Do what?" he asked innocently. "Rescue me. I'm used to it." "That's precisely why someone should," he replied. "Though I wasn't rescuing you. I was rescuing myself from receiving inferior art advice." A genuine laugh escaped her, perhaps the first he'd heard. The sound transformed her face, bringing light to her eyes that made the scars seem inconsequential. "You're different," she observed, studying him with newfound curiosity. "So are you," he answered simply. That evening, as the gallery was closing, Rohan lingered, pretending to examine a particular painting while actually watching Naima's reflection in the glass. After the others left, he witnessed her retrieve a sketchbook from beneath her desk and begin drawing with intense concentration. Moving quietly, he positioned himself to glimpse her work, a stunning reinterpretation of one of the gallery's abstract pieces, but with depth and emotion the original somehow lacked. "You're an artist," he said softly, startling her. Naima quickly closed the sketchbook. "I'm an assistant curator who sometimes doodles," she corrected, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. "No," Rohan insisted, stepping forward. "You're an artist who happens to work as an assistant curator." Something in his certainty made her pause, really looking at him for perhaps the first time. "Why do you keep coming back here, Rohan?" The question hung between them, layered with meaning. Why indeed? Because in a world where his wealth defined him before he spoke a word, her genuine passion for art and resilient spirit spoke to something he thought he'd lost: the ability to see beyond surfaces, Because, he said simply, some galleries contain treasures that aren't hanging on the walls. Shattered reflections. The invitation arrived on heavy cream cardstock with gold embossing, an exclusive gallery opening at the Mumbai Arts Foundation. Naima stared at it in confusion. She hadn't applied for any exhibition opportunities lately. Congratulations, Mr. Mehra said, appearing beside her desk with unusual enthusiasm. Being invited to the Foundation's networking event is quite an honor. You'll be representing Prism Gallery, of course. Tanvi, overhearing from nearby, approached with barely concealed irritation. Surely you don't expect Naima to attend. The Foundation events attract the most influential people in the art world. Her emphasis made the implication clear. Someone with Naima's appearance didn't belong in such company. Mr. Mehra's smile tightened. Naima's knowledge of contemporary South Asian art is unparalleled in this gallery. She's attending. He turned to Naima. The gallery will cover your expenses for appropriate attire. That evening, scrolling through dress options she couldn't afford even with Mr. Mehra's allowance, Naima's phone lit up with a text from Rohan. Over the past 2 months, their conversations had evolved from art discussions to personal revelations shared over occasional coffee after gallery hours. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. I have something important to discuss. Their friendship, she carefully avoided calling it anything else, had become the unexpected bright spot in her life. Rohan listened when she spoke about art with a respect few others showed. He never stared at her scars or pretended they weren't there. Instead, he seemed to see beyond them to the person she was beneath. The next day, Rohan arrived earlier than usual. Something about him seemed different, a nervous energy she hadn't witnessed before. Could we talk somewhere private? He asked. She led him to the small staff room at the back of the gallery. Is everything okay? Rohan paced the small space before turning to face her. I haven't been completely honest with you, Naima. A cold dread settled in her stomach. She'd allowed herself to trust him, to believe someone could value her mind and spirit without ulterior motives. My full name is Rohan Kapoor. The name hung in the air between them. Even Naima, who deliberately avoided business news, recognized it. Rohan Kapoor, tech genius and founder of Nexus Technologies, whose sustainable energy innovations had made him one of India's youngest billionaires. I don't understand, she said slowly, pieces clicking into terrible place. Why would you pretend to be ordinary? Because when people know who I am, they don't see me anymore, he explained, stepping toward her. They see bank accounts and opportunities, just as people see your scars and miss everything wonderful about you. The comparison ignited something fierce inside her. Don't you dare equate your privilege problem with what I face every day, she said, voice trembling. You can take off your disguise. I live in mine permanently. Naima, that's not what was this some kind of social experiment? Befriend the scarred girl, make her feel special, then what? A generous donation to fix her face? A heartwarming story for your next charity gala? Pain flashed across his features. Is that really what you think of me after all this time? I don't know what to think anymore. She grabbed her bag, needing escape. I thought I'd finally found someone who saw me, really saw me. Instead, you were just playing a role. Naima, please, I have to prepare for an event, she cut him off. Congratulations, Mr. Kapoor. You've had your experience slumming with ordinary people. I'm sure it will make for fascinating dinner conversation. She fled the gallery, ignoring his calls behind her. On the crowded street, tears blurred her vision as she hailed an auto rickshaw. How could she have been so naive? Of course, there had been an agenda. Men like Rohan Kapoor didn't befriend women like her without reason. The next 3 days passed in a fog of hurt and preparation for the Foundation event. Rohan texted and called repeatedly, but she ignored every attempt. With Mr. Mehra's allowance, she purchased a modest but elegant midnight blue gown with a subtle pattern of silver embroidery. If she was representing the gallery, she would do so with dignity, scars and all. The Mumbai Arts Foundation occupied a restored colonial building, its architecture a blend of British grandeur and Indian craftsmanship. As Naima entered the marble-floored atrium, she felt painfully conspicuous despite her careful preparation. Conversations quieted as she passed, eyes following her path across the room. Naima Sharma, a distinguished woman in her 50s, approached. I'm Deepa Agarwal, Foundation Director. We're delighted you could join us. Confused by the personal welcome, Naima shook her hand. Thank you for including Prism Gallery in the event. Deepa looked perplexed. Oh, you're here representing Prism? I thought She stopped herself. Never mind. Please enjoy the evening. The exhibition begins in 30 minutes. As Naima navigated the crowded room, snippets of conversation reached her. That's her, the one they're featuring tonight. I heard her work was discovered accidentally. Such a powerful perspective, challenging conventional beauty. None of it made sense until she turned a corner and froze. There, displayed prominently on the exhibition hall's entrance wall, was an enlarged reproduction of one of her sketches. The phoenix rising from flames, human hands reaching upward. Beside it, more of her work, the secret pieces she'd created after hours in the empty gallery. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she approached a display card. Beneath the surface, emerging works by Naima Sharma, sponsored by the Kapoor Foundation for the Arts. The betrayal cut deeper than any stare or whisper ever had. He hadn't just been pretending to be her friend. He'd been spying on her most private expressions, her vulnerable moments of creation. And now he'd put them on display without her knowledge or consent. They're extraordinary, aren't they? She turned to find Rohan standing beside her, dressed in an impeccable suit that suddenly made his wealth unmistakable. "How dare you?" she whispered, struggling to maintain composure. "Those were private. You had no right." "I know," he admitted, genuine regret in his eyes. "But your talent was too important to remain hidden. I should have asked first. That was wrong of me. But I couldn't bear watching you hide your gift any longer." "So you made this decision for me? Because the billionaire knows best?" Her voice shook with anger and betrayal. "This is exactly why your dishonesty hurts so much. You didn't trust me enough to make my own choices." "Naima, Mr. Kapoor!" A group of elegantly dressed patrons approached. "We're absolutely captivated by your discovery. Such raw talent." As they surrounded him, praising his philanthropic vision, Naima slipped away, finding refuge on a deserted balcony overlooking the city lights. The cool night air dried the tears on her cheeks as Mumbai sprawled before her, beautiful and broken all at once. Just like her, she didn't hear the balcony door open, but sensed his presence before he spoke. "I never pitied you, Naima." Rohan's voice was quiet. "From the first day I admired your strength, your integrity, your vision. You see beauty where others don't because you've had to look deeper. That's why your art speaks to people. You should have asked me. You're right. I was afraid you'd say no. That fear of rejection would rob the world of your gift. That wasn't your decision to make." "No," he agreed. "It wasn't. But before you leave, and I'll understand if you do, please see how people are responding to your work." Inside, the exhibition hall had filled with Mumbai's cultural elite, all focused on her sketches and paintings. Their faces showed not pity but genuine appreciation, even awe. For the first time in her adult life, people were looking at something she'd created rather than the scars on her face. The realization did nothing to lessen the betrayal, but it planted a seed of something else, a possibility she'd never allowed herself to consider. Perhaps her scars weren't the entirety of her story after all. Perhaps there was more she could say, if only she found the courage to speak. Canvas of truth. The morning after the exhibition, Naima woke to find her phone flooded with notifications. Art blogs were featuring her work. Gallery owners were requesting interviews. Even Tanvi had sent a message that managed to be both congratulatory and passive-aggressive. "Never would have guessed you were hiding such talent. Mr. Mehra is ecstatic about the publicity." Amid the digital chaos, one message stood out, not from Rohan but from Deepa Agarwal. "Your work deserves a proper showcase. The foundation offers a 3-month residency to emerging artists. The position is yours if you want it. No strings, no Kapoor involvement. Your decision entirely." Naima stared at the ceiling, emotions warring within her. Anger at Rohan's presumption still burned, but alongside it grew something else, a dangerous flicker of hope. For years she'd hidden her art like a shameful secret, convinced the world would dismiss it just as they dismissed her. Now that her work stood on its own merit, could she really turn away from this opportunity out of pride? When she arrived at Prism Gallery, everything had changed. Colleagues who had previously ignored her now smiled eagerly. Mr. Mehra announced she would curate her own exhibition section. Even customers treated her differently, some asking about her artistic process rather than avoiding eye contact. "Fame changes everything, doesn't it?" she murmured to herself, sorting through exhibition catalogs. "Not everything," came a quiet voice behind her. Naima turned to find Priya, the gallery's newest hire, a shy university student who had always been kind but cautious around her. "Your art was always magnificent," Priya continued, her eyes sincere. "I saw you sketching after hours once. I never said anything because you seemed so private about it." "Why didn't you ever look away from my face like everyone else?" Naima asked suddenly. Priya touched her hip unconsciously. "My leg is mostly metal below the knee. Car accident when I was 12. Invisible disabilities make you recognize that everyone has stories beneath the surface." She smiled slightly. "That's why your Phoenix piece made me cry. You understand what it means to rise from ashes." The simple connection struck Naima more profoundly than all the professional accolades. Perhaps the most valuable outcome of Rohan's interference wasn't recognition from the art world, but the realization that her experiences, pain included, could speak to others who understood suffering. That evening, she found herself standing outside the gleaming headquarters of Nexus Technologies. The modern glass tower reflected the setting sun, turning the windows to sheets of gold. She had rehearsed what to say, how to balance gratitude with righteous indignation, but now that she was here, words seemed inadequate. The receptionist's eyes widened in recognition. "Ms. Sharma, Mr. Kapoor mentioned you might visit. Please follow me." Rather than heading to the executive floor as expected, she was led to a simple studio space occupying half the building's top level. Massive windows provided perfect natural light, while easels, canvases, and every imaginable art supply filled the room. Rohan stood by the windows, tension visible in his shoulders as he turned to face her. "Before you say anything," he began, "this isn't a bribe or an apology gift. This space has been sitting empty since we built the headquarters. I've never known what to do with it." Naima surveyed the studio, fighting the immediate artistic inspiration it triggered. "Why am I here, Rohan?" "Because I respect you too much to let things end the way they did." He approached slowly, stopping at a respectful distance. "What I did was wrong, exhibiting your work without permission. I violated your trust and privacy. There's no excuse, even if my intentions were good." "Then why did you do it?" He exhaled slowly. "Because I recognize hiding when I see it. I've spent my life concealing different parts of myself. First poverty, then wealth. You hide your talent because you think the world will only ever see your scars." His eyes met hers directly. "We're both wrong, Naima. The world is capable of seeing more than one truth at once." "Easy for a billionaire to philosophize," she said, but the edge had softened in her voice. "I grew up in a Dharavi slum," he said quietly. "My mother cleaned houses in Juhu while I taught myself computer programming at the public library. When investors finally took a chance on my solar battery design, I couldn't believe anyone saw past my background to my ideas. I still can't sometimes." The revelation hung between them, not as an excuse, but as context she hadn't considered. "The foundation offered me a residency," she said finally. Relief brightened his features. "You deserve it. Will you accept?" "On one condition." Naima moved closer, finding courage in her newly discovered strength. "No more secrets. No more decisions about my life without my involvement. If we're going to be, whatever we are, it has to be as equals. We can never be equals financially," he acknowledged with surprising frankness. "I don't care about your money. I care about respect." A slow smile transformed his face. "That I can promise without reservation." 2 weeks later, Naima stood before a blank canvas in her new studio at the Mumbai Arts Foundation. The residency had provided not just space and materials, but also connections to mentors and galleries interested in her unique perspective. She had resigned from Prism Gallery despite Mr. Mehra's protests, determined to follow her art wherever it led. The exhibition catalog from her debut show lay open on a nearby table, featuring an interview where she had spoken candidly about her scars, her artistic journey, and her vision of beauty that existed beyond conventional standards. Her phone chimed with a message from Rohan. "Gallery opening tonight still on?" Their relationship remained undefined. More than friendship, not quite romance, as they carefully rebuilt trust. He had kept his promise, making no decisions for her, offering support without direction. She was learning that accepting help didn't always mean surrendering autonomy. As evening approached, Naima prepared for the opening of a group exhibition featuring works from all Foundation residents. Her newest piece would be unveiled, a large-scale painting she had titled simply, "Truth." The gallery buzzed with energy as Mumbai's art community gathered. Naima wore a simple but elegant black dress, her hair pulled back to fully reveal her face. No more hiding. When her painting was unveiled, audible gasps filled the room. On canvas, she had created a portrait of a woman whose face was partially obscured by shattered mirror fragments. In each reflection was a different aspect of the woman: artist, daughter, friend, survivor, while cracks between the fragments glowed with gold leaf, illuminating rather than hiding the broken places. "It's you," Rohan whispered beside her, emotion thick in his voice. "It's all of us," she corrected. "We're all broken in places. We all reflect different truths depending on who's looking." As patrons approached to discuss her technique and vision, Naima noticed a young girl staring intently at the painting. Perhaps 10 years old, she had burn scars similar to Naima's across her right cheek and neck. Her mother stood protectively nearby, watching with anxious eyes as her daughter seemed transfixed by the artwork. Excusing herself from conversation, Naima approached the girl, kneeling to meet her eye level. "Hello," she said gently. "I'm Naima, the artist." The girl's eyes widened. "You look like me," she whispered. "I think that makes us both very special, don't you?" A hesitant smile bloomed on the child's face. "My name is Zara. I want to be an artist too, but—" She glanced at her mother, her voice dropping lower. "Kids at school say artists have to be beautiful." Naima felt Rohan watching from across the room as she took the girl's hand. "Would you like to know a secret about beauty?" She pointed to the gold lines in her painting. "In Japan, there's an art called kintsugi, where they repair broken pottery with gold. They believe something becomes more beautiful after it's been broken and healed. Our scars are just the gold in our stories." Tears shimmered in the mother's eyes as Zara looked back at the painting with new understanding. "Will you sign my program?" the girl asked shyly. "So I can remember?" As Naima signed her name, adding a small sketch of a phoenix in the margin, she felt something shift inside her, the final piece of a long, incomplete puzzle falling into place. Her art wasn't just about personal expression anymore. It had become a bridge between broken places, a light illuminating paths for others who needed to see possibility. Later, as the crowd thinned, Rohan found her standing alone before her painting. "I've never seen you look so peaceful," he observed. "I finally understand why you pushed me to share my work," she admitted. "It was never really about me, was it?" He raised an eyebrow questioningly. "Art that matters is always a conversation between souls," she explained. "Keeping mine hidden wasn't just cheating myself. It was withholding something that might help others see differently." Rohan gently took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Does this mean I'm forgiven?" "The method, no," she said firmly. "The intention, perhaps." As they stood together before her illuminated broken pieces, Naima realized that true healing had little to do with erasing scars and everything to do with finding those who saw the gold in your fractures, and becoming someone who could see it in others. Beyond the frame, 6 months after her debut exhibition, Naima stood in front of the former textile warehouse, keys clutched tightly in her hand. The faded brick building in Mumbai's developing arts district hardly looked impressive from the outside, but its potential made her heart race. High ceilings, abundant natural light, and 15,000 square feet of raw space, the perfect canvas for what she envisioned. "Ready?" Rohan asked, standing beside her. She took a deep breath. "I still think you're crazy for backing this." "I'm backing you," he corrected. "There's a difference." The past months had transformed Naima's life in ways she once couldn't have imagined. Her foundation residency had culminated in a solo exhibition that sold out completely. Art critics praised her unflinching examination of beauty beyond convention and her revolutionary perspective on human resilience. 3 prestigious galleries had offered representation. Instead of accepting, she had approached Rohan with a different proposal altogether. The heavy door creaked open, revealing the cavernous interior. Dust motes danced in sunbeams streaming through industrial windows. The space echoed with emptiness and possibility. "It's perfect," she whispered, already mentally dividing the warehouse into its future purposes. Gallery space in front, studios for resident artists in back, community classrooms along the east wall, cafe and gathering space to the west. Broken Beauty Arts Collective, Rohan read from the business plan tucked under his arm. the first gallery and studio space in India dedicated to artists with visible and invisible disabilities. The concept had come to Naima after meeting Zara, the young girl from her exhibition. What if there was a place where difference wasn't just tolerated, but celebrated as a unique artistic perspective, where scars, disabilities, and neurodivergence were recognized as valuable lenses through which to view and create art? She had approached Rohan not as a romantic partner, though their relationship had deepened considerably, but as a potential investor, complete with market analysis, 5-year projections, and a sustainable business model combining commercial gallery sales with educational programming. "You could have simply asked me for the money," he had said, examining her meticulous proposal. "That's not how equals operate," she had replied. Now, walking through the space that would become her vision realized, Naima felt both terrified and exhilarated. She had already received applications from 37 artists across India after a quiet social media announcement. Painters, sculptors, photographers, and digital artists, all creating work informed by their experiences of difference. "Construction begins next week," Rohan said, consulting his phone. "The architect sent updated renderings based on your accessibility requirements." As he showed her the designs, Naima was struck by how naturally they had fallen into complementary roles, her artistic vision and community connections balanced by his business acumen and practical resources. What had begun as an uneven friendship marked by secrets and presumptions had evolved into a partnership of mutual respect. "Have you told your parents yet?" she asked as they measured space for the central exhibition area. A shadow crossed Rohan's face. His family's disapproval of their relationship remained a tender point. The Kapoor family, new to wealth but determined to cement their social standing, had made their expectations clear. Rohan should marry someone who would enhance their position, not a charity case who would invite pity. "I'm having dinner with them tonight," he said. "It's time they understand this isn't temporary. Do you want me to come with you?" He hesitated. "Not yet. Some conversations need to happen first." That evening, Naima worked late at the warehouse, mapping out exhibition flows and making notes about lighting requirements. When her phone rang close to midnight, Rohan's name flashing on the screen, she answered with concern. "How did it go?" His laugh sounded hollow. "About as expected," my mother cried. "My father threatened to remove me from the company board. My brother called me a fool." "I'm sorry," she said softly. "Don't be," I finally said what needed saying. His voice strengthened. "I told them I've spent my life building what they wanted, wealth, status, power, while ignoring what I needed. You've shown me what it means to create something meaningful, something that heals rather than just accumulates." A lump formed in Naima's throat. What did they say? That I'm throwing away everything for a woman who will never fit into their world. His voice softened. "I told them I'm not interested in fitting into their world anymore. I'm building a new one, with you if you'll have me." 3 months later, the Broken Beauty Arts Collective opened its doors with an inaugural exhibition featuring work from 12 artists with diverse disabilities. The warehouse had been transformed into a light-filled gallery space with thoughtful accessibility features integrated throughout. Tactile guides for visually impaired visitors, quiet rooms for those with sensory sensitivities, ramps and elevators ensuring every area was accessible to all. The opening night drew an unexpected crowd, not just the typical art scene patrons, but families with disabled children, medical professionals, disability rights advocates, and curious community members. Local news covered the event, interviewing artists about work that ranged from brutally honest to transcendently beautiful. In the center of the main gallery hung Naima's newest piece, a large-scale interactive installation, where visitors could write their insecurities on dissolving paper and watch them become part of a growing sculptural garden of strength. Beside it stood Zara, now her youngest student in the weekend children's program, proudly showing her own small painting to admiring guests. "You've created something extraordinary," came a voice behind her. Naima turned to find an elegant older woman watching her with appraising eyes. With a jolt, she recognized Sunita Kapoor, Rohan's mother. "Mrs. Kapoor," she said, surprised. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Nor did my son, I imagine." Sunita's gaze traveled around the gallery. "He said this was important to him. I came to understand why." Naima remained silent, allowing the woman space to continue. When you have wealth, Ms. Sharma, you become accustomed to seeing ulterior motives everywhere. I assumed you were using my son for his money and influence. Her eyes returned to Naima's face, studying the scars without flinching. I was wrong. Before Naima could respond, Rohan appeared beside them, shock evident on his face. Mother? Your project is impressive, Sunita said, her formal tone softening slightly. Your father is speaking with the sculptor near the entrance, the former military officer. He finds his perspective on resilience compelling. As she moved away to join her husband, Rohan turned to Naima with wonder. What just happened? I believe, Naima said slowly. That's what acceptance looks like. Imperfect, cautious, but real. Later that night, after the crowds had departed and only the core collective members remained, they gathered in the cafe area for a celebratory toast. Artists with varied disabilities, from visible scars to prosthetic limbs to invisible conditions, raised glasses together. To differences that aren't deficits, called out Vikram, a photographer who used a wheelchair. To beauty in broken places, added Priya from Prism Gallery, who had joined the collective as their education coordinator. As conversations flowed around them, Rohan led Naima to the rooftop garden they had created above the warehouse, a peaceful retreat with city views and beds of native plants. I have something for you, he said, producing a small wrapped package. Inside was a delicate kintsugi bowl, broken pottery repaired with gold lacquer, making the fractures the most beautiful part of the piece. It's tradition to give a gift at the launch of a new business, he explained. This seemed appropriate. Naima traced the gold lines with her finger. It's perfect. There's something else. He seemed uncharacteristically nervous. A question, actually. Before he could continue, she placed a finger against his lips. Before you ask whatever you're about to ask, I need you to know something. I'm not with you despite your wealth or because of it. I'm with you because you saw beyond my surface when no one else bothered to look. Because you challenged me when I needed challenging and supported me when I needed support. Even when I got it wrong, he asked with a small smile. Especially then, because you were willing to learn and grow. She took his hands in hers. Whatever you're asking, my answer depends on one thing, that we always see each other's whole truth. Broken places and all, under the Mumbai stars, surrounded by the creative sanctuary they had built together, Rohan knelt before her. But rather than a ring, he offered a small key. This isn't a marriage proposal, not yet, he explained. It's an invitation. I've created a studio in my home, designed to your specifications. I'm asking if you'll share your life with me, your art, your vision, your strength. Not as my wife unless and until that feels right to both of us, but as my partner in everything that matters. Tears blurred Naima's vision as she accepted the key. In a world that had once defined her by her scars and him by his wealth, they had somehow found their way to this moment of perfect understanding, where neither surface nor depth alone defined them, but rather the beautiful complexity of both together. Yes, she whispered, pulling him to his feet, but on one condition. His eyebrow raised questioningly. That studio better have north-facing windows, she said with a smile. As laughter and tears mingled between them, Naima gazed out at the Mumbai skyline, a city of contrasts and contradictions, of immense wealth alongside desperate poverty, of ancient traditions beside cutting-edge innovation. It struck her that their journey reflected Mumbai itself, complex, sometimes painful, ultimately beautiful in its honest imperfection. The Broken Beauty Arts Collective would never change the entire world, but it had already changed their world. For children like Zara, artists finding their voice and visitors questioning their assumptions about beauty and worth, they had created a space where difference became strength and scars became stories worth telling. In the warm Mumbai night, surrounded by the creative community they had built and the love they had found, Naima finally understood. True beauty wasn't found in perfection, but in the courage to reveal your broken places, and the wisdom to recognize that those very fractures let the light shine through.